All right, making their return from a 7-week hiatus, Wrestling Unwrapped number 20, getting to know Woo. Harry and Patrick, take it away.
I just want to say for the record that I petitioned for this to be Wrestling Unwrapped Special Edition number 1. I was outvoted by my producer and my co-host.
Well, the producer kind of just asked, so really it was a split vote. But anyway, who the hell are you?
I know. It almost feels like it's been forever since we've done one of these, doesn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
Good grief. I seem to remember sunny weather and trees full of green leaves, and now it's like 75 and with a chill in the air in Ohio.
Sucks to be you. It was 86 and gorgeous in Chicago today. Just
yeah, well, your winter's going to suck a whole lot worse than mine is, so, you know, that's fine.
Fair enough. My legs also proved that it was 86 today.
Maybe we should introduce us rather than starting our bickering already. There's plenty of time to bicker. We still need to know who we are.
I was gonna say, isn't this whole episode kind of just gonna be finding out who we are?
That's exactly the point here. All right, so we used to be on a different network. I won't name names. I won't name people. Actually, some of our shows are still on that network in syndication, I do believe. Mr. Garmer, I do believe W2M still airs on this network in syndication, if I'm not mistaken. You used to. Well, anywho, we did an episode on there called Getting to Know Woo. Woo being Wrestling Unwrapped in our attempt at being clever, obviously failing miserably. The reason we did this is because at the time we were a new show, and we wanted to give some people some background as to who we were and why we were doing what we're doing. Oh, sorry, distracted by cheerleaders. I'm good. All right. To why we put together this show in the first place. I have the Notre Dame Texas game on in the background, as I'm sure Patrick does as well, as he's a Notre Dame fan. But anyways.
Actually, I don't.
Oh, wow. Then I'm the unprofessional one here. That's a change. All right. TV off. Anyways, well, we did Getting to Know Woo originally. It got really deep really quickly, so we're going to try to avoid doing that again tonight. But for the sake of completion and the fact that my personal issues that I had that put the show into hiatus, and I take full responsibility, it was the personal decision that I made on my end that caused us to have to go into hiatus. But it was not one that I regret. I wouldn't change anything about what I did. I did what I did for a family member, and that's all I'm going to say about the situation at hand. That's all people need to know.
And that's all we'll just mention.
We're coming back with a show that we have a familiar format for with Getting to Know Woo. And it's our way of introducing ourselves to the Wrestling to the Max the W2M network. You've heard myself and Patrick on a couple other various shows on this platform here. You've heard myself on Wrestling to the Max. You've heard me on Football to the Max before. I know Patrick has chimed in on what was the video game one called when Patrick was a guest on it? I know it wasn't like Gaming to the Max or whatever. What was it called originally?
Video Game to the Max. Video Game to the Max.
I thought you were on the one that was like called when it had a different name or something, like 4-player co-op or something.
Multiplayer co-op multiplayer.
Sean's not helping me here, so I'm kind of hanging out to dry.
I was saying co-op multiplayer.
Anywho.
Actually, he was on when it changed the name because it was during the E3 stuff.
So is it like Gaming to the Max now?
Video Games to the Max, but close.
Okay. Well, I'm not a huge video game person, so I can honestly say that that's one of the few shows on the network I don't actually listen to. Because I'm not a huge video game person. Most people who know me know that. And now you've learned something about me, which is kind of the point of the show that we're doing tonight. It's to more thoroughly introduce you to us. What makes us tick, why we became fans in the first place, favorite wrestlers, matches, moments, that kind of stuff, favorite promotions. We used to do a thing on the old edition of Wrestling Unwrapped that we would call the Countdown. We would do it in the middle of the show if they were multiple disc shows, or at the beginning or the middle of the show if they were just one disc shows, where we would have various topics and we would give our countdowns on like 3 or 5 favorites from this particular topic. I would suggest that we're probably going to do something similar with that tonight as well for a couple of various other things, and it's your chance to learn more about the guys that are undertaking this increasingly insane burden that is providing a DVD review podcast. I've spoken enough.
Indeed.
Your turn.
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. So, yeah, I mean, this should be a pretty easy one. No main event, no cash or trash or anything like that. We're not reviewing anything. We're just, well, the only thing we're reviewing is what we like and dislike. Is kind of the long and short of it. And Sean, if you want to be involved in any of these, by all means, go right ahead. We're not sure something going to stop you.
You know what it is, Patrick? We're reviewing our wrestling fandom, and to steal a line from Botchamania, -5 stars.
Pretty much. By the way, we probably should, at the very least, tell everyone our names, because it's been a while. We also kind of forgot a couple other things.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and pay some bills first here? Where can people find this episode and other episodes of shows from the W2M Network, Patrick?
You can find this episode pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. iTunes, Spreaker, Blueberry, Last.fm. And now you can actually also find us, well, not us, but that'll be soon. We'll be on TuneIn Radio as well, so you can find all of that there. And Sean isn't up yet. Sean?
No, it's not. No, it is not up yet.
Okay, is the website up yet?
No, that's if everything goes to plan, which I basically got like a day and a half to try to get everything ready, which may not happen. I don't know. Everybody's being really slow about doing what they're supposed to do.
And I won't mention that.
Yes.
Alrighty.
But hopefully this week.
You know where else you can listen to us?
Where's that?
You can totally listen to us on 411 Mania. We are presented in association with 411 Mania. We used to be on another one of the sites that the W2M networks are on, but they decided that we weren't the show for them. And it's okay. We wish them nothing but the best in their future endeavors.
Sure we do, Harry.
Your Johnny Ace impression is awful.
Which makes it great. Anyway, and not only that, this is brought in participation with the W2M network.
Oh, no, we are a presentation of the W2M network. That's our home network. And we can thank the guy who's producing us right now on the ones and the twos. That's Sean Garmer. I'm Harry Broadhurst, a.k.a. the reason you actually listen to this podcast. Patrick is just kind of here as an appetizer. I'm your entree.
Get used to that, Evil.
No, I think you're more of the I think you're more of the dessert, super fruity.
Where does? Well, you guys haven't missed a beat at all.
Yeah, you say that like we weren't busting each other's stones by text message during our hiatus.
Yeah.
Hey,
which worked out for me because I got to watch the Rio Olympics, so it all worked out.
Did Patrick tell you what we discussed about that, Sean? We were originally joking about going on hiatus for the Rio Olympics anyway, and then it just so happened that my personal situation fell right during the Rio Olympics, and he could watch whatever he wanted to anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how he was going to pay attention. The dude watched like 100 hours of Olympics? My God.
Almost like it
94.
was planned. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got a
Yes,
good
indeed.
use out of my login there.
Thank you, Sean.
That's good because I'm like cutting the cable in a couple of days. So I'm glad you got used
Oh,
to
okay,
it.
so I won't be able to do it anymore. All right.
Well, yeah,
Anywho.
PS View finally added the NFL Network this week, so I said, well, I'm gonna save me like $60 and.
Hey, wrong podcast.
Yeah. Sorry, it has to do with TV. You might have to use it to review a show or something.
All right.
Uh,
So,
I mean, technically speaking, we're not doing what this podcast was intended for tonight either, so we got no room to talk.
True.
it's always good to get to know people. Yeah.
All right, so let's actually start this with one of the. With one of the main reasons that we do this show here, and I want to take everybody into kind of the backstage process as to how one of these episodes come together. We'll get more into our own personal favorites and unfavorites, or likes and dislikes, however you want to phrase it, a little bit later on. But I want to kind of give you guys an idea as to what happens behind the scenes when it comes to putting together one of these shows. My DVD collection is massive. I won't say. I won't say that I have every promotion, but I have a decent amount of a lot of my favorite promotions. I think at last count, I had at least one or two shows of something along the lines of like 80 different promotions. And then obviously your bigger promotions, your WWEs, WCWs, ECWs, TNAs, ROHs, your bigger indies as well, Shikara, AIW, AAW, PWG, ROH, however you want to phrase it there. I have multiple shows up. But then there are other companies where I have like one or two shows up as well. The process becomes a case of figuring out where my collection lines up with Patrick's collection. In order to explain how this comes about, though, it takes a little bit of a backstory here. I got into independent wrestling in 2009. I went to my first indie show at The Wedge here in Youngstown, Ohio, which is where I'm from, in 2009, and the driving point of that particular CWE show, Championship Wrestling Experience, was the Youngstown debut of the Canadian Destroyer, Petey Williams.
Was he little Petey at this point?
I don't believe so. It would have been 2009. I think he wouldn't have been Little Petey Pump until about 2010, 2011.
Oh, okay.
This is also before Steiner Mass.
Oh.
Yeah, fuck! Anyways, if you've never seen the Steiner Mass promo, if you've never seen the Steiner Mass promo, you owe it to yourself. Patrick, one of us needs to post that on the Wrestling Unwrapped Facebook page.
Oh, we will.
All right, anyways, so it was around that time that I got into the world of independent wrestling. I had other friends that were into independent wrestling as well at the time, and they were kind of able to give me suggestions as to promotions to look into. Within my very first couple of orders of DVDs and stuff, I stocked up on the entire first run of ROH shows, the entire 2002 run. I got a lot of Shikara as well because, as we'll talk more a little bit later here, Shikara is my favorite promotion to watch and has been ever since I got into independent wrestling. And I'm sure fellow W2M network member Paul Leeser would appreciate that as well. Because when he sat in for us on the previous incarnation of Wrestling Unwrapped, we actually reviewed a Shikara show. So my era of being involved with independent wrestling starts back in 2009. Patrick's is a little bit more modern, and I'll let Patrick tell that story.
Oh, you're done.
I said I will let Patrick tell that story.
Sorry, it's just you suddenly cut off. I didn't think you were done. Sorry.
No, I was done. Go ahead.
Alrighty. In my case, I didn't even go to my first professional... Well, okay, I'd gone to two WCW house shows, which coincidentally were both headlined by Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan in 1998.
For the record, calling a WCW event a professional event is kind of a stretch.
Ouch.
Well, yeah, fair enough. I think Goldberg ended up at like 141-0 or something.
Okay, to be fair, they were pretty much just making shit up when it came to his number at that point.
Oh, yeah. We were the 141st match. We were on a Sunday, but they went to Monday, and he was 155-0. So, what does that tell you?
He beat Curly Bill 10 times backstage at catering.
No, he beat the caterer.
Dude. What culture pro wrestling needs a wrestler named the caterer?
They don't need any more ridiculous crap.
Also, we need to be on what culture? That's all I'm saying. All right, carry on.
Anyway. But for me, my first actual live show was not until Labor Day 09, I think. It would have been the Bob Barker hosted Monday Night Raw, which I think was Labor Day 09. The one good guest host.
Did you go home and get your pet spayed and neutered afterwards?
Nope, they still aren't spayed or neutered to this day.
You're not helping control the pet population. Bob Barker would be disappointed.
My dog is.
He would tell you that the price is wrong.
I'm not Adam Sandler.
Followed by a word we'd have to bleep on this channel.
God. Anyway, and then after that, my first independent show would not have been until, I believe it was AEW Path of Redemption 2011. In the past, we've done their second Bourbon Street show, which was AAW Epic, which we'll never be able to review again because I've had multiple people threaten me with lawsuits if we do it again.
Wait, why?
That's a story unto itself, Sean.
No, we'll go ahead and get into this here. We'll go ahead and get into this here.
You're going to tell a story like that and you're not going to give the ending? What kind of crap is that? Don't be WWE.
Oh no, we're giving an ending here because even if he doesn't want to give it, I will because he doesn't have to be authorized to give it. I can. Tim Wynham ain't going to say shh to me.
Well, there's a reason for that one, Harry. He's not going to say anything to anyone.
Well, yeah, I forgot. He's the one who passed away, isn't he?
Yeah.
All right, well, anyways, the silent partner in AAW.
There is one.
Epic 2010. Was it 10 or 11 that we did? 11. Okay, my mistake. Epic 2011 has the only AAW appearance of the man who is now in charge of TNA.
Ah, okay.
And needless to say, on his way out of AAW, he managed to burn every bridge possible.
Mm.
So long story short.
I'm getting there.
Does this have to do with the Jesus thing?
No, it's the creation of the promotion that had the Jesus thing happen in it.
Ah.
Yes.
Because it ended up becoming a war in Chicago between AAW and the promotion we want. The Resistance Pro was his promotion in Chicago.
And now they're not even the number 2 promotion in Chicago.
Well, now he's got bigger fish to fry. So.
Well, not to mention, I was going to say he's had no involvement with Resistance for a while now, anyways.
Very true.
All right. So anyway, back to your story about getting involved in indie wrestling.
Okay. Well, okay. Real quick, I'll give Sean this. Long story short, Billy Corgan came in for an appearance at AEW. He was also doing it to try and film a music video. Oh, what the hell is this? Owada. They Smash the Pumpkins for some reason wanted to use AAW as the company for their music video for Owada. And they did, and the deal was, we let you film using AEW stuff, you make an appearance. He would then turn around and talk to all of the owners, which at the time there were 5. Yeah, 5. 2 would jump over. Huh?
I can think of 2 of them off the top of my head. One is the previously mentioned Jim Wynham.
Yeah, there were 5 at this point. There's 2 now, but 2 would jump over to Resistance with Billy Corgan, and Corgan made every promise in the world. And in the end, Billy Corgan essentially tried to kill Chicago wrestling and came pretty damn close. Luckily for a lot of people, AEW, Blitz, and Dreamwave, which are kind of the 3 major, were pretty much able to save it, because Resistance was going to take it to hell in a handbasket. And Freelance, which is now the number 2 company here in Chicago, has also helped with Chicago wrestling. So we can't really review Epic 2011 because I have been ordered by owners of AEW, do not review it again.
I almost feel like I should have somebody else guest host with me, and we can review Epic 2011 again. You've been ordered not to do the show. They hadn't said a word to me.
Enough. Anyway, so yes, I would start with Path of Redemption and go to Epic, and I originally started just going to AAW shows that were across the street from my house. For those that don't know, because I don't think this is one of the few things I haven't mentioned, I actually live across the street from a 40,000 square foot entertainment complex. It has like a sports bar, a restaurant, and like 6 different parts to it, one of which is a huge performance hall. And that's where AEW wrestles now and does all of their shows from. And that's why they're able to get 700 for their shows now. And so I've been going to AEW.
In case you're wondering, people, he means Bourbon Street, where AEW runs the shows.
Yes, 115 Bourbon Street. No, they're not a sponsor yet.
Get on that.
And then starting in 2012, I started going to Shimmer as well, and I have not missed a Chicago Shimmer taping since my first one in October of 2012.
My tie-ins to the world of independent professional wrestling go a little bit deeper than Patrick's do, if not on such a grand scale. I've kind of made mention of this fact here on the show before, and I'll make mention of it again here. I am the play-by-play voice of a company known as Real Action Pro Wrestling. We are based out of Struthers, Ohio right now. We were originally based out of Youngstown when it first moved to my area. They used to be based out of Barberton, Ohio as well, which is like right outside of Akron, for a point of reference for anybody who knows this area. Before RAPW, I was the play-by-play voice for a while of Black Diamond Wrestling based out of West Virginia, more or less based out of West Virginia. They run shows in the state of Ohio as well, but their main base is in West Virginia. And I got my start in a promotion known as High Stakes Battleground Wrestling, although that was its second name. The name that I had when I started working there was Hardcore Brutal Wrestling, HBW. HBW was owned by a man who was a sponsor of the show, and by the way, I will take this opportunity to say that if you are a fan of anything wrestling, you can check out our friend Jason Kunkel and his Madhouse Toy Chest. In there you can find DVDs, action figures, magazines, books, cups, pretty much anything wrestling related you can think of. He probably has something to do with it inside of the store. That is stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. But as I was saying about Jason owned the Hardcore Brutal Wrestling, which became High Stakes Battleground Wrestling, which is where I got my start. And that was in March of 2011. which means as of March this year, I just celebrated my 5-year anniversary as a play-by-play announcer in this business.
Happy anniversary.
And to put this into perspective for some people who might be listening who are wondering about the credentials and stuff of the promotions and such that I've worked for, names such as Johnny Gargano, Shark Boy, Chris Hero, Necro Butcher, Bobby Beverly, for local Ohio wrestling fans who follow AIW, you'll know that name very well. Let's see here. Who are some of the other people that I've had the opportunity to work with? It's been an incredible ride getting to be on this side of the curtain, and as well as having the opportunity to work with some of these people who, when I was first starting going to wrestling, like I mentioned, the fact that my first live independent wrestling event was a CWE show back in 2009. Quite a few of the people that were on that CWE roster when I went to my first show are now co-workers of mine inside of Real Action Pro Wrestling. So I've told them that it was watching them perform there that I realized that this is kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be involved in this side of the business, that I wanted to be on the side of the curtain where people were coming to see my performance contribute to the show while their performances were what the fans really paid to see.
And I would assume that it's worked out ever since.
Yeah, I can't complain. I mean, obviously when it comes to the world of professional wrestling, you have your ups, you have your downs there, but I wouldn't have traded the last 5 years doing what I've been doing for anything. I've gotten to travel many places. I've gotten to meet people. I've gotten to see some of my friends actually make it into bigger and better places as well. One of my friends, Joey Martini, you know him well as part of the Iron Curtain in AAW. He was able to start making his way all around the Midwest independent scene before he suffered a knee injury. He's just now starting to get his name back out there once again.
And we said so obviously, you know, in the end here, we both kind of know what we're talking about when it comes to independent wrestling. And I mean, everybody and their mother watches WWE, or well, at least did. So we both have a very vast knowledge of independent wrestling. Mine more geared towards Illinois companies, and Harry's obviously more towards Ohio companies. But I think with, like Harry mentioned earlier, any major companies, you know, it's hard to deny that. So, you know, PWG, Chikara, Ring of Honor, in my case, AIW, even though that's one of Harry's home feds, essentially. So we kind of, at least we would feel that we know what we're talking about.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact that as you get more and more involved in watching independent wrestling and you expose yourself to more and more promotions, you find that a lot of like the super indie promotions, your AIWs, your AAWs, your PWGs, to an extent ROH, even though they do have syndicated television with Sinclair. But you find that a lot of their styles technically tend to run along the same lines, whereas your lesser-known independent promotions usually tend to focus on the storytelling and not necessarily the in-ring action. I mean, there are guys that are on the show, and some of them bring in bigger names as well, but there are guys on the show there that are just the kind of guys that you would typically imagine in an independent show as the lifelong fans who wanted the opportunity to do this, got trained, and if you're going to get involved in professional wrestling, I cannot reiterate this enough. I did the backyard thing when I was a kid. I'll be the first person to admit that. It was a big mistake because, part of it was the fact that I didn't know what the hell I was doing and could have gotten seriously hurt. If you are going to try to make a career in professional wrestling, do it the right way. Get yourself trained by a legitimate, recognized school and get your name out there properly. Don't try to be the next Mick Foley, making your name jumping off of roofs into boxes where nobody's going to care at this point, and you're going to end up on ridiculousness and not in an actual promotion.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So,
I can vouch for that too. You don't want to do that as a person that's trained to be a wrestler and all that stuff. I also did the backyard thing, and it. Luckily, I didn't get hurt, but I actually got hurt more doing actual wrestling than doing the backyard thing. But yeah, don't. It's always better just to go do the training if you really want to do it. Go find your local wrestling school, try out, or pay them the money, whichever one works for that certain instructor, and see if you can cut it.
You go to seminars and things like that as well.
No, and that's another thing too, and that actually brings up one of the other names that I wanted to mention as well, as far as people I've had the opportunity to work with before. One half of the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, Raymond Rowe, and he did a seminar for one of the promotions that I worked with as well, and just having the opportunity to sit on part of the seminar that I did get a chance to sit on, and seeing him impart his wisdom to the next set of guys that are trying to make it in this sport here. I cannot tell you how valuable of an experience it is for young up-and-coming wrestlers to be able to go to these kind of training seminars, to go to these kind of schools, and be able to be imparted with the wisdom that these guys have there. In my case, the one that springs to my mind is the Mega Dojo up here. The Mega Championship Wrestling, owned by Jeff Traxler. It's a subsidiary of AIW. A lot of the up-and-coming talent that you see in AIW got their start at Mega, including their current AIW Intense Division champion, Alex Daniels. So these are places that you can go and you can get your legitimate grasp into the world of professional wrestling, into the whys and the hows and the whens to do whatever it is that you're doing inside of the ring, rather than thinking you know what you're doing by putting on a show in your backyard in front of a bunch of your friends.
Grab the brass ring, damn it.
That may have been worse than your John Laurinaitis impression. All right, so let's talk about the let's quickly talk about the process that goes into why we do the shows that we do. I mean, obviously, besides the fact that we both own them. One of the main things that we've tried to do here on Wrestling Unwrapped, and it goes back to when we had our original incarnation of the show as well, is that we tried to mix it up and give our listeners a good variety of shows, while at the same time taking the opportunity to strike while things were topical as well. I can think of the longest episode of Wrestling Unwrapped ever, which would have been our review of the Dusty Rhodes DVD, and that would have been 4 days after Dusty passed away that we did that set.
No, it was a little longer. Maybe 2 weeks?
No, I don't think it was it might have been a week and 4 days. Like, I know it was right around the exact time, because we also had plans to do Born to Controversy as well when Piper passed,
which we never did do.
Yeah, well, we'll work on that for a future episode here on Wrestling on the W2M Network. I keep wanting to say Wrestling to the Max Network, and it's just W2M Network.
Yeah, and I will say that hearkening back to the Dusty Rhodes episode was why I pushed for us to take the Saturday Night's Main Event DVD set and split it over 2 episodes.
Which is something that we're probably going to end up doing in the future for all 3-disc WWE comp DVDs that we do going forward. Just so that way we don't have to rush through anything. We can give everything the proper time that it deserves. And in addition, it'll allow us to save our sanity of not having to do a 5-hour show again.
Yeah, because the Dusty Rhodes DVD, like Harry mentioned, was the longest one we ever did, and it timed out at somewhere in the ballpark of 3.5 hours. So, needless to say, way too damn long. Never again.
Yeah, never a good thing.
So, yeah, so that's why, and Harry fought me about that one originally when I brought up the idea for Saturday Night's Main Event. You didn't want to do 2 episodes. You wanted to do 1.
You were 100% correct in that. I did fight it.
Boy, I'm glad I won that one.
Yeah, hindsight being 2020, I'd say that worked out for the best. I think our producer would agree with that too, because I don't think he'd want to sit around for 3.5 hours reviewing Saturday night's main event either.
Yeah, he's watching football.
he has an Notre Dame Texas on now. Neither of us do.
Yeah. So, but yeah, as Harry mentioned, we usually try to remain topical. We're probably not going to do the WrestleMania month again, though. But being topical, honestly, I think the ultimate case of it was us deciding what we were going to do for our last episode before the 2016 Rumble, when Vince McMahon himself told us what we were going to do for that episode.
Well, he didn't specifically give the year in question, but most wrestling fans who knew what happened there, and we're of course referring to the fact that in the 2016 Royal Rumble, Roman Reigns had to defend the heavyweight title throughout the Rumble match itself. The only other time that had happened in WWE history was obviously the 1992 Rumble, where the title was on the line when it was vacant from what happened on Tuesday in Texas. We figured
it should be a Hall of Famer.
Say what?
Vacant should be a Hall of Famer, damn it.
Anyways, we figured since the 2016 edition was going to be for the heavyweight title, why not do the only other Royal Rumble that was for the heavyweight title? And if I am not mistaken, Sean, you would know this better than we would since you have the access to the numbers there. I do believe that is still to this day the highest listened to episode of Wrestling Unwrapped.
You know what? I can tell you.
Well, Sean,
Hello. Hold on. I'm looking. You guys carry
on. All right, while he does that, let's go ahead and talk about another time we were really topical as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. When we started our road to WrestleMania March, wasn't it right around the time that Bryan appeared on Raw to retire? And then that's when we did 30? I'm almost certain of this one. It was either the week that Bryan appeared on Raw, or he appeared on Raw the very next night to retire. I know he retired in February, and that's around the time that we started our road to WrestleMania this year. Because we did like 6 weeks worth of WrestleMania shows.
That would sound about right. I'm not 100% certain that it's exactly it, or it may have been the catalyst for us changing it, because originally we were going to do that in chronological order.
Right. And then we both made the mutual decision to go ahead and move 30 to the forefront of the list.
Yeah, so I think that's what it ended up being. That was the catalyst for us bumping Daniel Bryan's finest hour to the start of our league.
Yet again, cashing in on the topicalness of the situation. So usually it's one of two things that lead to the decision for what we're going to do there. We try to rotate between doing a main company show or a WWE show and then mixing in either a old school pay-per-view, say WCW, ECW. We've done both on this show. I'm still trying to convince Patrick to do a TNA show. It's not going so well.
WrestleMania 32 episode is the highest listened to episode.
Which would make sense because that was barely a week after.
Well, yeah, because neither of us could do the Wrestling Unwrapped to the Max episode that night.
Yeah, you were at a party and I was stuck in traffic leaving AT&T Stadium or sitting at Waffle House.
Yeah, then some of the other WrestleMania shows. WCW Sold Out 2000 and...
Which is further proof that everybody loves a good train wreck.
God.
I'm just saying, Patrick, Spring Stampede is on the horizon.
Either Spring
Yeah.
Stampede or Slamboree.
As far as plays go, it's overwhelmingly the 32 episode. As far as downloads, it is the WrestleMania 17, and that's not even close. So.
Well, are you really surprised?
No, but again, the whole it pays to be topical.
Indeed.
Well, and technically speaking, we were topical with 17 because 17 was on the bill towards this year's WrestleMania, and we were covering what is widely acknowledged to be the greatest pay-per-view in wrestling history.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I think that's the only time we've ever gotten into a major disagreement about their scoring as well.
Say what?
And I think WrestleMania 17 is also the only time that the three of us have ever gotten into a major disagreement about scoring. It was literally half a point. Because Harry and I both gave that one a 10 out of 10, while Sean refused to give it a 10 out of 10, and we ended up getting into a huge disagreement over it.
Well, speaking of things we disagree on in regards to scores there, I think this would be a good time to explain the long-running joke on the Wrestling Unwrapped podcast about the 1 point difference.
I mean, we pretty much explain that every week, though. But for those that don't know...
Well, for long-time listeners of the show, and if you're listening to this episode, it's probably because you've gotten used to listening to us on a weekly basis, and you're excited to have us back, and we thank you for your excitement. If you're listening to us to get to know us before you start listening to the podcast, how it's coming back, we officially welcome you back to Wrestling Unwrapped as well. For the longest time, in regards to Wrestling Unwrapped, when we were doing our big finish, we have our final rating for the shows that we do, and for the longest time, I think for like the first 14 or 15 episodes, we were never more than a point apart on anything that we did. And this was with no pre-planning. We did not discuss our scores for these shows with each other before we gave the score. And there were several times where both of us were considering a half a point in either direction that would have broken that streak, but it ended up not working out that way. Do you remember what show it was that broke that streak?
I'm trying to remember. I would have to go and look at all of them because I remember it was a bad show. Was it the 2014 Royal Rumble maybe?
I think it might have been because I had a live perspective for that one.
And I gave it a worse score than you.
Well, I mean, I think I gave both a live score and a non-live score, like a hindsight score as well. And I think my hindsight score for it was like a 6, or it was like a 5 or a 6, and I think yours was like a 3 or a 4, depending on whether or not I gave it the 5 or the 6. Like if I gave it a 5, you gave it a 3. If I gave it a 6, you gave it a 4, because I know it was 2 points.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain on. Yeah, because I'm looking for old episodes and not finding it.
No, it definitely sounds like it was that definitely sounds right that it was indeed the 2014 Royal Rumble.
It was either that or it was WCW Sold Out 2000.
No, because I think both of us gave that show like a 3.
Which would sound about right for us.
Yeah. Because there were a couple of decent matches on that show, but nothing to write home about, and certainly nothing to rise it above that level. So no, I think we both gave that show a 3. or maybe I gave it a 3 and you gave it a 2. I know we were within a point of each other on that one.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it's probably the Royal Rumble, like a 6-4 kind of thing. But
sounds about right.
Yeah. So, but that's the best that I could think of. But I mean, since we're kind of on that topic of ratings and our, what we like and don't like, how about we kind of, get into, get into a few of our countdowns here.
Yeah, we're almost an hour into the show, so we can go ahead and start getting into a couple of these countdowns real quick here. All right, I might do top 5 for this one because I actually do have a set top 5 when I get asked this question, and I'm curious as to whether or not you do as well. And that's going to be your favorite wrestlers. Do you have like a set group that you always list, and if so, how many are in it?
My fave 5, dog. No.
I walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did. I honestly, no. I've never really had a set 5. It kind of always changes. I've got a couple that are complete and total mainstays, just without question. But the rest of them can kind of come and go all the time. So, but I mean, I would have a 5 right now.
All right, well, let me ask you this then. If somebody were to ask you who are your 5 favorite wrestlers right now, who would you? What answer would you give them?
5 favorite right now or 5 favorite all time?
All time. Sorry, my mistake. If somebody were to come up to you and ask you to list your 5 favorite wrestlers, like let's say your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers plus 1, who would you put on that list? Like who are your 5 favorite people to watch?
Mine wouldn't show up as a Mount Rushmore. It actually would not. Number 5 for me would be The Undertaker. Number 4,
you're actually putting him in numerical order as well.
Yeah. Number 4 legitimately is, I don't know what the hell you want to call her. Is it Death Ray, the Queen of Wrestling, the American Angel, Sarah Del Rey?
You will get no arguments from me on that.
Yeah. I've gotten arguments from other people, but I just basically told them to piss off. Number 3, Shawn Michaels. Or, I'm sorry, no, he's number 2. Sorry. Number 3 actually also legitimately is Sami Zayn. El Generico. I'll give that one away.
No, he's in Mexico helping the orphans.
All right,
I think Sammy's his cousin. I think.
Maybe. Or trainee or something.
Well, Sammy does come from Mexico as well, so it's entirely possible that they may have crossed paths somewhere along the way.
Maybe. Number 2 is Shawn Michaels, and number 1, far and away, is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I will admit to being a little bit surprised by that list actually.
Why?
And the reason I'm going to say I'm surprised is because my list is significantly more indie influenced than yours is.
40% of my list is indie influenced.
80% of mine is.
Okay. I went 2 out of 5. You went 4 out of 5.
Well, 4 out of 5 technically, because when I started watching them, they were indie people, or in, I guess, 3 of their cases, they still are. 3 of them still indies. 1 of them's retired. The other one is still active in the WWE.
I mean, if you really want to get technical, I could throw out The Undertaker and throw in Madison Eagles. Very easily, because she's number 6, but she's like really close to number 5.
Well, it depends if we're talking like Phantom of the Opera Taker or like 2006 actually giving a crap taker, because there's a very noticeable difference there. That's beside the point.
I'm talking 2009 Match of the Year with Shawn Michaels.
Okay, so WrestleMania 24 Undertaker. Gotcha.
25.
24.
24 was against Edge. 25 and 26 were with Shawn Michaels.
Damn it, you're right. Yeah, that's on me.
I know I am.
25 was because 26 was the one that main evented and shouldn't.
Yes, it should have.
No, we'll have that discussion later.
Okay.
All right. I'll do mine in countdown order rather than count up order, like how you did yours. You did yours 5 to 1. I'm going to do mine 1 to 5 because number 1 for me is no surprise. And anybody who knows me, anybody who's listened to the show knows this. I've discussed it multiple times throughout the course of us doing this show here. My favorite wrestler... You rat bastard. Anybody who's followed this show for any... God dang it. I hate you so much right now. Let's try this again. Anyone who's listened to our show for any extended length of time knows that my favorite wrestler is Chris Jericho. Always has been, always will be. He is the reason that I got back into wrestling again when I was 17. It was his undisputed title win that had me watching wrestling again on a regular basis online at the library when I was in high school, even though I should have been focusing on my schoolwork. What have you. And just everything about Jericho has always appealed to me. I've always loved his promos. I've always loved his in-ring work. Obviously, he's slowed down a step since his most recent return, obviously. But you can look at a guy like that, and you look at his match that he just had against Neville a couple weeks ago on Raw. And for archival sake, we're doing this show on September 4th, 2016. The match against Neville on Raw would have been August 29th, I believe, this past Monday. And by the time... If somebody in the future is listening to this episode, you can check that episode of Raw on the network, and that match will be on there. And even to this day, it's still some of Jericho's best work, working with a younger guy like Neville, formerly known as Pac. And just seeing that working with these younger guys brings out the best in Jericho at times, as well as brings out the best in the younger guys that are getting the opportunity to work with Jericho, who, much like myself, Neville has admitted he admired as he was getting involved in professional wrestling. Jericho is one of his influences. Number 2 is about to cause some controversy with a lot of people because this guy is not liked in the world of professional wrestling anymore. But I want to take you back to 2003. And it was not 2003 when I first saw this promo. It was a little bit later than that. I would say 2004, 2005, somewhere in that range. But I want to take you back to Wrestle Rave from ROH in 2003. And this is real. This is true. This is straight edge. My number 2 is CM Punk.
And you're blocked.
By Punk on Twitter. For even acknowledging that he had a past in professional wrestling. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yes. All right, anywho. My number 3 is my Quackenbush. And the reason that I put Quack this high is because of everything that he's done as promoter as well as athlete for Shikara Pro Wrestling. My number 4 is the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels.
I was just going to say, what's the line that you always used about Quack? Him and Malengo?
What do you mean? Oh, the man of 1,000 holds?
Yeah. That there's only 2 men in history that can use the line of a man of 1,000 holds and actually be believable. He said it was Dave wrinkle in my package.
Well, and just as importantly, too, here, this made the rounds. This was a trending topic on social media when it happened, but it's something that stuck with me to this day. Do you remember the speech that Mike Quackenbush gave at that one entertainment expo? Or it was like a symposium or something, and he did a speech, and he explained professional wrestling as not as well as I've ever heard anybody explain it. Do you remember the quote?
I absolutely love that speech.
Do you remember the specific quote that I'm referring to?
Not off the top of my head. I know exactly where you're going, but I can't think of the quote.
To those who get it, no explanation is necessary. To those who don't, no explanation will do.
Which is 100% true.
Professional wrestling in a nutshell right there. If you're a fan of professional wrestling, it doesn't matter what other people say. If you're not a fan of professional wrestling, it still doesn't matter what other people say. Okay, moving on. Number 4, the fallen angel Christopher Daniels. I'm about to make a very bold statement here. You ready?
Yes.
Christopher Daniels is the best wrestler never to hold a major world heavyweight championship. Ever.
Oof. Okay. I don't know that I necessarily agree, but I understand where you're coming from.
Christopher Daniels is the complete package when it comes to professional wrestling. And he's another one of those guys along the same lines as Chris Jericho for me, in that he is entertaining as can be, tells a fantastic story in the ring, and is one of the best talk them into the building promos that you will listen to in the world of pro wrestling.
The man is an ageless wonder.
For him to still be doing what he's doing at the age of almost 50 now? He's got to be pushing 50.
Hang on.
To Wikipedia you go.
Damn right.
While he's looking up Christopher Daniels' age there, my number 5 is actually another Chris. Who's your hero? It's Chris Hero.
Chris Hero. By the way, you're not right, but you're not terribly off. 46.
Yeah, it doesn't perform like a 46-year-old at all. How ironic is it that there's another one on my list that's 45 as well? Jericho's 45.
Yeah.
My number 5 is Chris Hero. Are you looking up? You don't need to look up Jericho's. Jericho's I know. Jericho's 45. He turns 46 in November.
Bit of a stalker there, eh?
He's my favorite wrestler. I keep track of these kind of things.
Fair enough.
Anyways, Chris Hero is one of those guys who I always viewed as a major wasted opportunity for the WWE. And at the same time, I can kind of see where they were coming from as well when it came to his work ethic at the time. That being said, we talk about Mike Quackenbush in this regard. We talk about Dean Malenko in this regard. If there is a wrestling move out there that Chris Hero does not know how to counter or escape from, I have yet to see it. And I'd imagine that Hero has yet to see it as well. He's just one of those kind of guys who is so technically sound inside of the ring despite appearance, because there are those who knock Hero for his appearance these days. Obviously, Hero's put on a little bit of weight ever since he left the WWE, and part of the issue that he had was the was the weight control that he was having in the WWE, which led to his release. But when that bell rings and those lights are bright inside of that ring, he's one of the 5 people I'd most like to watch.
I'll say this. Appearance aside. Sorry, Harry, I'm going to piss you off with what I'm about to say. But I just watched Chris Hero versus Drew Galloway this past Thursday night in the fabled Berwyn Eagles Club, and they beat the hell out of each other, and they tore the house down. As only they can. So, yeah, weight issues aside, there are very few that can touch Chris Hero in the ring. Okay.
All right. So that takes us to wrestlers. Let's talk about promotions, because I know we've done this countdown before. Do you remember your list? Because I remember mine.
Except I think we only did 3.
Yeah, well, we're going to expand it, though, too, because one of the other things is when we did the list originally, it was favorite independent promotions. I think we should do favorite all-time promotions.
Fair enough.
All right. Do you want to count down or count up? Do you want to?
Just so you know, we're probably about to piss off a lot of people.
It's entirely possible.
So, fair warning to those listening. We're probably going to piss you off.
You want to count down or count up?
Well, what's 5 to 1? Would that be count down?
That would be counting down, yes. All right, let's go ahead and do that then. Hold on, I actually have to take a second to flip and reverse my list then.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, I got mine.
All righty, why don't you start things off? Yes.
Number 5, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Every single one of their shows feels like something special. They don't necessarily all pan out that way, but going into every single one of PWG's shows, and especially modern-day PWG shows, like anything, say, 2010 and newer, I would even go as far back as like 2009, back to the days of Kenny Omega winning the Battle of Los Angeles. Every single one of their shows, it feels like something important could and will happen. The Ladder War that Generico and Steen had in ROH spilled over into PWG, and in my opinion, their match in PWG for the PWG title match in the ladder match was better than the Ladder War that they had in ROH at Final Battle.
Hey, they tore the house down, literally.
Yes, quite literally. And if you don't know what we're talking about, YouTube search Steen Generico PWG ladder match. I do believe the full match is on there, and you will see what we mean, quite literally tearing the house down.
And if the whole match isn't up there, I'm damn certain that at least the highlights are up there.
Correct. Honestly, you could probably look at the DVD trailer from Pro Wrestling Guerrilla itself on YouTube. I'm pretty sure that's probably up there.
Probably, that would be Steve Wolf, I think.
You are correct, Steen Wolf, because the next show is the return of the man who makes his return after that ladder match, and I won't specifically name names in case there are people out there who are a fan of him. But just say a major West Coast return happens at the end of that ladder match. Guys like the Young Bucks got their start out in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and were able to make their names worldwide because of a promotion like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Human Tornado became a national name because of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla.
Joey Ryan,
Candice LeRae, Willie Mack. You pretty much name a major star in independent professional wrestling these days, they are either a product of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or they came through Pro Wrestling Guerrilla on their way to where they're at now. And like I said, a lot of it has to do with atmosphere as well. You could argue 115 Burberry Street, and I'm sure you will. There are AIW fans who I'm sure would argue the old Turner's Hall out in Cleveland. for my money, before all is said and done, with regards to my involvement with wrestling, as far as watching as a fan, being able to call a show eventually, or what have you, my goal is to see a show in Reseda one day. Because the atmosphere in that American Legion Hall, to me, seems like second to none.
So's the temperature.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Oh, no. I have friends who are probably either about to or are currently sitting in there because tonight being what it is, it's actually the final night of the 2016 Battle of Los Angeles. And
returning to 3 nights this year.
Huh?
Just saying, returning to 3 nights this year.
It was 3 nights last year.
It was?
Yep, because actually, for the previous 2 were 3 nights, because I'm looking at the DVD cases. And last year's final night was somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 hours long. It is the only double disc in PWG history. Double disc show in PWG history.
Yikes.
Yeah, it went until almost 1 o'clock in the morning.
Starting at 7 p.m. West Coast time.
8.
Okay, close enough. Anyways, who's your number 5?
For me, my number 5 is actually Ring of Honor.
Okay.
And in much of the way that you talked about a lot of independent fans getting their start in PWG, you could also say the same for maybe not getting their start, but making their names known through Ring of Honor. And even if you look at a lot of NXT's roster, Austin Aries, Samoa Joe, Looking Forward champions, Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, the guy we talked about earlier, CM Punk, all of them. Maybe not, but Joe, you could say TNA, but for my money, he got his name made in Ring of Honor. And for the longest time, it's kind of gone a little down, but Jay Lethal has done an absolute hell of a job trying to build the brand back up, especially with his, I think either close to or record-setting World Championship reign. I think close to. I don't think it actually did break the record.
Go ahead, keep talking. I'll look it up.
It makes for a great company that does still feature some of the best wrestling in the world. PWG may have a flashier show, but Ring of Honor can say they have some of the best wrestling, technical, mat-based. You still get your flash in there, no doubt. The Young Bucks are in there too, and Adam Cole's got a lot of flash to him, baby. But for my money, I would absolutely say Ring of Honor.
One of my favorite wrestlers actually does not wrestle for Ring of Honor. He or does not wrestle for PWG nearly as often as he does. He's a mainstay in Ring of Honor, and that would be the man of attitude, charisma, and heart. That would be ACH.
Also an AAW stalwart.
I am an absolutely huge fan of ACH. I think he's going to be one of those guys who, he's not a superstar by the end of 2017. Something has gone terribly wrong in the world of professional wrestling.
I'm shocked he's not a star already.
100% agree, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's under contract in a promotion that doesn't necessarily feature him possibly the way they should.
But at the same time, ACH doesn't really suit Ring of Honor.
Sir?
I'm saying it wrong.
Jay Lethal's reign as heavyweight champion was the 4th longest in ROH history. He is not the current champion either.
I know he's not.
Okay.
I was saying during his, I thought, near record-setting reign. But I know he's not anymore.
Huh, okay. Samoa Joe for 645, Nigel for 545, Dragon for 462, Lethal at 427.
Oh. Oopsie.
And then there are a pair of names there right underneath Lethal on the list, but they have 2 reigns, so I'd have to specifically look up the length of their reigns individually before I could give you a number for them.
All right, what's your number 4?
My number 4 promotion is ECW. And when I say ECW, I'm not referring to the blood and guts ECW of 1994, 1996, 1997, into 1997. I'm referring to the very wrestling-heavy ECW of 97 with the Barely Legal pay-per-view, which we've covered on this show before, of 2001 with the Guilty as Charged show that we've covered, which is, despite the fact that it was the last true ECW show, was actually a very solid pay-per-view. Not a great pay-per-view by any stretch of the imagination, but given the financial circumstances the company was in at that time, still way better than probably could have been expected. And then you had pay-per-view after pay-per-view between 1997 through that 2001 pay-per-view there that were just so much different and, in a lot of cases, so much better than anything else that the big two were putting on at that time.
Actually, you know what just dawned on me?
What's up?
Oh, wait, no, I'm dead wrong. Sorry, never mind.
Rar?
I was going to say we've done both January 2001 pay-per-views that were in WWE, but no, the sold-out one we did was 2000.
Yeah. No, we did Sold Out 2000, Guilty as Charged 2001.
Oopsie.
I would be interested to do that one month, though, to use the network and actually do that, though. If you'd be down for that, I'd totally be up for that. Taking 1 month where we have 3 Sundays and covering every pay-per-view from the 3 major organizations from that month. I'd be down.
Works for me. Works for me. See, folks, this is how it usually goes.
Yeah, one of us spitballs an idea and it takes off from there. Well, as a matter of fact, October has 3 Sundays in it that aren't pay-per-view days. Let's do it in October.
Works for me.
All right. We'll let you know what month we decide to go with later on down the road, but we kind of have a temporary plan for October now. We'll cover a WCW, an ECW, and a WWF pay-per-view. All right. What's your number 4, Patrick?
For me, number 4 is PWG. Hey,
so
you got your 5, I got my 5.
We were pretty close on that one, so I really don't need to expand on it. I kind of said a lot of what needs to be said about Pro Wrestling Guerrilla.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, it's kind of ironic that you would say that. My number 3 is your number 5, Ring of Honor. And for a lot of the same reasons that you gave, in the fact that there were superstar-making performances in this company, and I take you back to my second favorite wrestler of all time. If not for Ring of Honor, despite the fact that he came up in IWM itself, if not for Ring of Honor, no one would know who the CM Punk is.
And now everyone regrets knowing who CM Punk is.
That is 100% a true statement. But yeah, my number 3 is ROH. How about yours?
My number 3. All right, I'm going home. My number 3 is AAW.
I think I know who your number 1 and your number 2 are now.
I'm not. May.
I'm not willing to set them in 100% stone, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know the order, but I'm pretty sure I know.
You probably know number one.
Oh, I'm sure I know number one, 100% positive.
All right, we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yes.
But
just for the record, AAW just missed my top 5. I put PWG just ahead of AAW. And that's nothing against AAW, and we've talked many times before that one of my, I mentioned earlier that I'm a play-by-play announcer, one of my play-by-play inspirations is actually the voice of AAW, and that would be Phil Colvin.
Yes. And Derek St. Holmes, Esquire.
Well, Colvin's the play-by-play guy, though.
I know.
But yes, DSH is awesome, too.
Yes. Anyway, so, okay, yeah, maybe I have a bit of hometown bias here, but particularly, I'll go since February, and the reason I say February, spoiler alert, Harry. Okay.
Go ahead.
February was when Sami Callihan won the AAW Heavyweight Championship, the big belt.
I already knew that, but thank you for advancing the spoiler warning.
You're welcome. But since then, seeing the way that they have absolutely exploded is mind-boggling. And I mean absolutely zero disrespect to Danny Daniels, zero disrespect to Mike Pekovich, zero disrespect to Jim Lynam or any of them. But when they started going to Bourbon Street, that would be their biggest show of the year, and they would bring in about 400 people, but that was with a special guest, which at one point included Dustin Diamond. These were dark ages of AEW.
Yeah, well, in fairness, at one point that special guest was Billy Corgan, so Dustin Diamond was a step up. Boom.
Anyway.
Carry on.
But seeing what they've managed to do now over the past, basically the past 5 years since I've started seeing them has been nothing short of amazing. They have essentially grown to become, and maybe even because of the size of their crowd now, surpass becoming the PWG of the Midwest, which is what a lot of people were calling them at the start of the year, was they were the PWG of the Midwest. But PWG still runs an American Legion Hall that can safely only put in about 300 people, whereas now AAW is selling out a hall and can just get to 700 people. You know, and that's an atmosphere that's unthinkable.
Well, let me ask you a question here as far as AAW goes in comparison to PWG, because I have it on good authority for this question. What are AAW's ticket prices like for said Bourbon Street shows?
Slightly better.
Slightly?
Slightly. The show that they just did this past Thursday was $30 general admission, but $60 front row.
PWGs are 80, 70, 50.
So
81st row, 72nd row, 50 general admission.
Well, that was just this one show because they were back at the home at the Eagles Club. Their normal is, I believe, 50, 40, 30, 20 for seating. So first, second, third, and then fourth row back is GA, and $15 standing room only now because they have no more seats. Like, they legitimately run out of seats now. So now they just pack them in at $15 a pop for standing room only.
Don't get me wrong. The the growth of AAW over the course of the time that even I've been watching them has been astronomical. And I'm sure, as you mentioned, that it's picked up there. At the same time, though, PWG, in the course of its expansion throughout the course of the last couple of years, has gotten rid of a lot of the homegrown talents that you used to see on their shows, and it's loaded top to bottom with independent superstars. Based on the cards that I see for AAW, they cannot make that same claim.
You're kidding, right?
No, I'm not.
This past show had
This
two
past show was
homegrown
also
talents,
a special,
maybe?
This past show was also a special edition show, too.
Okay, so go to the previous one, which was Showdown. That was headlined by Sami Callihan versus John Morrison.
Oh,
They
no, and
also
I
had Jack Evans, but it also featured Jack Evans, Ricochet, Jessica Havoc, Jake and Dave Crist, who you could argue is homegrown talent, but even still, they were the CZW Tag Team Champions. So their AAW's pretty much grown to become an all-star game. Their only homegrown talents now are Silas Young and OI4K. And maybe you could argue Scarlett, but she's only a manager.
I will admit that I am a little behind the times on the AAW. I will have to check out a much more recent show, and you and I need to talk about that, because I know you've been wanting to do something more modern for AAW here on Wrestling Unwrapped. So it's something
Indeed.
that we'll have to work out. But I still slightly put PWG ahead of AAW. And I think part of the reason I put PWG ahead of AAW is the quality of the homegrown talent that they've brought throughout the years as well. Would you argue that with me?
Absolutely not. You're right. PWG's homegrown talent is definitely seen above and beyond AAW's, aside from probably Silas Young. Silas could probably hold his own in PWG.
Oh, no question. I've said for a long time that I think that the last real man, Silas Young, may be one of the most underrated talents on the independent scene. But just like you mentioned, the Chris has homegrown AAW talent. I would actually disagree with that. The Chris are Ohio guys, literally Ohio guys, if I'm not mistaken. Their start, I do believe, came in the HWA, actually. Whereas you need to look no further for PWG homegrown talent than Matt and Nick Jackson.
Yeah.
Argument's over right there.
No doubt. Like I'm actually currently looking at the most recent DVD AEW show that I have.
Okay.
Ready?
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Ciampa versus Josh Alexander. Havoc
Who
versus Kimber Lee.
Slow down.
Tommaso
You're going too
Ciampa.
fast. Oh,
Okay.
Ciampa versus Josh Alexander. Okay, who versus Kimber?
Havoc. Jessica Havoc.
Okay.
It's a women's match. And Havoc's part of the Killer Cult.
I have no issues with Kimberly. I think Jessica Havoc's brand was damaged by TNA, but that's my personal opinion.
I think she would agree with you. And shines. Anyway, Silas versus Drew Gulak.
All right, I like this idea of Gulak.
This one will go more towards yours. Tag team title match was Davey Vega and Matt Fitchett versus the Hooligans, Devin and Mason Hutter.
All right, see, actually, I will say half of them are homegrown, but not even. And when I say half of them, I'm referring to Devin and Mason Cutter. But the Hooligans are actually probably more known for their work in IWA Mid-South than they are than they are known for their work in AAW.
Yeah, they are.
Because I know I got my introduction. I know I got my introduction to Mason and Devin Cutter in IWA Mid South, along with their third little brother, who's not around anymore. That being Neil Diamond Cutter.
Okay.
All right.
I
I will also say that I am a big fan of Davey Vega and Matt Fitchett, but those guys came from Anarchy Championship Wrestling out of Texas. Or to an extent, you could also argue SLA, St. Louis Anarchy.
I'd go more Anarchy.
Right.
All right. Yeah. The second half of the show is essentially the All-Star game. Drago versus Hero. Drago from Lucha Underground.
Yeah, Drago. I know who you meant.
Okay. AR Fox versus Aerostar.
Okay.
Trevor Lee versus Andrew Everett versus Cedric Alexander versus Moose. And I'm convinced that Cedric Alexander is not physically capable of having a bad match.
Well, we also what the Cruiserweight Classic did for Cedric Alexander's career.
Exactly. CSJ versus Johnny Wrestling.
And that match now I have to see because having had the opportunity to work with Gargano before, obviously I'm a fan of his work, and there may be no better mat technician currently active than Zack Sabre Jr.
Exactly. And then the main event was Sami Callihan and Dave Christ versus Outlaw Inc.
Eddie Kingston and Homicide.
Bingo.
It's actually Outlaw Inc.
I did say that.
I thought it sounded like you said Outlaw, no Z.
Yeah, Outlaw.
No, Outlaw is a Z.
Oh, no. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on. What's your number 2? Because we've spent too long on this.
Yeah. I was just messaging Sean, this may end up going 2 hours. Because the original plan for Getting to Know Who was only an hour and a half, but if we go 2 hours, it's okay. Because that's our normal time slot anyway. Yeah, pretty much. My number 2 is the WWE.
Here. I'll go ahead and give you mine right now. Exact same.
Yeah. My number 2 is the WWE, and the reason WWE is my number 2 is because just based on everything that I've seen from the course of my number 1, the consistency, the in-ring detail, the storyline detail that my number 1 has put into things, I don't think I can good conscience put the WWE ahead of them. That being said, as a wrestling fan in 2016, if you can find a reason to regularly bitch about what we're getting on television right now, the problem's not them, the problem is you. We live in a world...
Seth Rollins needs to stop using the buckle bomb. Actually, he probably should, but that's the bigger picture.
No, I mean, but look at the quality of people in the WWE right now, and I'm referring all time too. This is an all time list, but just for right now, let's look at the strength of the WWE roster, shall we? The 2 respective brand champions are Kevin Owens, BKA Kevin Steen, and Dean Ambrose, FKA Jon Moxley. AJ Styles and Seth Rollins are de facto number 1 contenders to both titles. That is a who's who of the independent scene over the last decade right there in and of itself. And these guys are given 20, 25, up to a half an hour every pay-per-view to go out there and tear it up. What's not to like? Go ahead and give your explanation here.
I'm going a little bit of a different route. In the fact that whether people want to admit it or not, and I'll still take this with me, and I don't even care if anybody, including you, argues with me. If it wasn't for the WWE, wrestling would not exist today. Even if it's companies trying to book themselves so totally differently from what the WWE does to try and be better than them. But the fact still remains, most likely if it wasn't for the WWE, wrestling would not exist today. If it wasn't for WrestleMania, I would not be possibly going to Orlando to see as many as 9 shows in 4 days in March and April, possibly. Plus, as you've already mentioned, look at the quality of the talent they have now. And I'll even go one step further and say, look at all 3 of their top champions. You have Kevin Owens, formerly known as Kevin Steen, from Ring of Honor. You have Dean Ambrose, formerly known as Jon Moxley from CZW. Look at who the NXT champion is. Shinsuke freaking Nakamura. And not only that, look who he has around him. Bobby Roode, Hideo Itami, Kenta, Samoa Joe. Like you said, the quality of the talent that they have now, they have never had the likes of ever. And I mean that, ever, in their company. So anyone that tries to find a reason to bitch is fooling themselves.
You may not like how certain people are used. And to that extent, I think the argument can be made about multiple people on their current roster. But that being said, when it comes to the opportunity to showcase their skills at the place where the most possible people will see them, and I know we have a lot of New Japan fans inside of the Wrestling to the Max group, when it comes to overall reach, the WWE's dwarfs New Japan's.
Hell, look at the 2 top shows that they have. Wrestle Kingdom, WrestleMania. Wrestle Kingdom had 3 commentary teams, 2, English and Japanese.
I think there may have been a third. I think there may have been a Spanish one, because there was some, if I'm not mistaken, there were some people from AAA over there for Wrestle Kingdom as well.
Okay, maybe Spanish. Look at all of the crews that WWE introduces at their pay-per-views. Portuguese, Japanese, Russian, plus English, German sometimes, French.
Did you say Japanese?
Yes, I did.
Funaki!
WWE #1 announcer.
I'm sorry, every month when they show Funaki at the Japanese announce table, I pop.
I don't blame you, I do too. But
the funnier part is who's sitting next. I mean, it's even funnier when you consider who's sitting next to him doing commentary as well. And the fact that he's doing commentary with Yamaguchi-san, Choppy Choppy Yo Pee Pee.
Is that who it is?
100%.
Oh my. I didn't realize that. Oh God. All right. But you can see the difference in their reach. WWE was, is, and probably for a very long time, if not forever, will be the top dog, whether anyone wants to admit it or not.
No, I mean, I can understand people who are going to prefer other promotions and stuff. And you'll notice that both of us prefer other promotions as well. The WWE is not number one on either of our lists. However, I don't think you can deny the fact that their reach is the greatest when it comes to this particular brand of entertainment that we all enjoy.
Not a chance. There is no argument. So,
right,
Harry, let's move on.
Yeah, I already know you're number one, and I'm pretty sure you know mine as well. So why don't we reveal each other's number ones? Yours is Shimmer.
I just don't know yours.
Mine is TNA, and I'm kidding. You do know mine.
Are we talking current? Like current company?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, I do know yours. Yes, mine is Shimmer. Yours is Lucha Underground.
You're wrong.
Oh, you could have fooled me.
My favorite promotion of all time is Shikara.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot
and
more
you
sense.
should have known that.
Yeah, I absolutely should have. And I'm sorry for not.
Yeah.
Yours was terrible, too.
I never doubted that. It sounds better in person. It doesn't translate on the phone, but that's because my voice sounds different on the phone. Anyways, the reason mine is Shikara is for many of the same things that I mentioned earlier. It's cohesive storytelling, quality in-ring action, sensible in-ring action as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. They get silly from time to time, yes. Am I a fan of the slow motion stuff? Am I a fan of the slow motion stuff when it happened? I mean, yeah, you can make the argument, the kind of business exposing, whatever you want to call it. But the point of Shikara is for people to have fun. And when it comes to that kind of stuff that the North Star Express used to do, Darren Corbin specifically, and you can attest to the Darren Corbin shenanigans, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
When it comes to Shikara, one of the main things that you think about it is they make wrestling fun.
I'll leave that joke alone.
What, that wrestling is fun?
No, make wrestling fun again. The silence is deafening.
The silence should be deafening.
Anyway.
Go ahead and explain your reasoning for Shimmer.
By the way, I believe the finals of King of Trios is tonight as well.
Yes, they are, which I thought was nuts, but like why are Bola and King of Trios running up against each other? Because that's a lot of the same fan bases that you're going to attract to both shows if they don't, but it is what it is.
Across the country. Anyway.
But no, I agree.
But yeah, mine, obviously, without question, is absolutely Shimmer Women Athletes. And before anyone even attempts to get on my case, because I have dealt with this for years, no, I am not one of those creepy stalker fans that just goes to the shows to hit on the girls. Shut up, Harry.
I totally go to the show to hit on the girls.
Anyway. You'd be surprised how often I have to fight that off.
Oh, no, I'm not. Because I know plenty of people who are like that, unfortunately. I respect the art form of women's wrestling. We've discussed this many times because we've done quite a few women's shows on this particular podcast. And yes, don't get me wrong, there are some incredibly attractive women involved in the world of women's wrestling. But at the same time, just because you're a pretty face doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make it as a women's wrestler.
And in this case, with a company like Shimmer, a pretty face ain't going to do all the work. You actually have to prove yourself to at least enough of the crowd. It's just...
I'm going to take back... Hold on. I'm going to give you a perfect example to your point right now as far as a pretty face won't get you far in Shimmer. I'm about to mention a name here, and I want to know if you know it or not. You ready?
Yeah.
Raina Von Tosh.
One volume, maybe?
Yeah. And that girl was stunningly attractive. She lasted one match in Shimmer because the fans did not care for her performance, despite the fact that she was a pretty face.
So, yeah. And it's weird because I can't even really give you an answer that would not be complete bias, legitimately. Because, you know, one of the main reasons I go to shows is to have fun. And also I go to talk with people, interact, and just have fun and have memories. Shimmer far and away is the company I have the most memories with. Whether it be huge returns, big title changes, huge debuts, getting spit on by wrestlers, which we've discussed in the past. Not that I was a fan of it, but it happened, and it's something I'm not going to forget. But also, you have probably some of the best female wrestling talent in the world. Hell, any fans of NXT, which, by the way, I put NXT with WWE. If I really wanted to keep them separate, NXT would definitely have been on my top 5, but I just put that under the WWE. Anybody that watched the last TakeOver from Brooklyn? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I included NXT with WWE as well. However, if we were separating them, I don't know that they would have beat. I don't know that they would knock PWG out of my top 5. I don't think they have a long enough track record to do so for me.
Fair enough. But getting back, if you look at the last TakeOver, NXT TakeOver back to Brooklyn, 2 female superstar matches. All 4 wrestlers started in Shimmer, or got their names in Shimmer. One wrestler in particular got her name in America because of Shimmer, that being obviously Asuka, Kana. Her opponent, Bailey.
You're going to get an argument from me on that Asuka thing because actually the promotion that made Asuka known to American fans was Shikara.
I think that might be an agree to disagree.
No, I'm almost certain Shikara was the first to bring her to the U.S.
Maybe, but and that may be 100% true, but I don't know that she really got her name from Chikara. I think a lot more people now associate her with Shimmer than Chikara. No offense to Chikara at all.
All right, continue.
But if you look at it, Kana for Asuka, Bailey, who wrestled as Davina Rose, Ember Moon, who I will openly admit I actually teared up seeing her debut just because she's always been one of my favorite Shimmer wrestlers, Athena, and her opponent, Billie Kay. Was it Billie Kay or did she face Peyton Royce?
No, it was Billie Kay, formerly Jessie McKay.
Okay. Yeah, from Australia, but probably got her name in America from Shimmer. So, you know, and not only that, the NXT women's coach is Sarah Del Rey. Becky Lynch, Natalya. Pretty much, I would say, if not 2/3, damn close to 2/3 of the current Divas roster, and I'm just using that just because it's easier to say than female superstars, but damn near 2/3 of that roster started in Shimmer. So you're welcome for the Divas Revolution.
I would be curious to go back to actually take a look at the current WWE women's roster and see how many of them actually do come from Shimmer and how many of them are homegrown. Like, I can only think of like 2 or 3 that weren't in Shimmer at some point off the top of my head. Like Eva, Natalia, okay, the Bella Twins, so 4. Although technically Bree's retired.
No,
so
not the Bella Twins. They are lying. Wait, did you say those that didn't work in Shimmer?
I said that didn't work.
Natalia did. She worked in Volume 5 and Volume 6.
I didn't say Natalia. I said Eva Marie, Naomi, and the Bella Twins.
Oh, sorry. It sounded like you said Natalia. Sorry.
No, I knew Natalia was in Shimmer. She was also a guest. She also appeared on one of the later volumes in a bonus match as well.
So, yeah, it's just like I said. It's the company that I have fun at Chikara. I have fun at AAW. It's the company I have the most fun at. So, complete bias number 1. So, do you think we move on to the wrestlers that we don't like?
See, this is a much harder list for me. Because, I mean, I know you can think of a couple off of the top of your head. I really don't know that there are a lot of wrestlers that I strongly dislike.
How about can you find 3? Can you find 3 that are not Hulk Hogan? As a matter of fact, I've got an idea. Let's call this the Hulk Hogan Memorial Most Hated Wrestler List.
All right, that's funny.
You're welcome.
I can think of one, even though he's redeemed himself a little bit. When he was in the WWE, I could not stand Bobby Lashley. Having had the opportunity to see some of his TNA work, I still wouldn't classify myself as a fan of Bobby Lashley, but I don't hate him nearly as much as I did.
Palatable.
Yes, that's exactly how I would describe it. Palatable.
Okay.
Your turn.
You know who my number 1's going to be. I know you know.
Yes, I know who I know who one of the people you're going to list is. Are you going to start with him?
Because hell no. He's number 1. Damn it.
Well, you don't have to do them in order because I'm not doing mine in order because I really don't have an order because I don't have that many people I dislike.
All right, fair enough. I'm still gonna save him for last though. My first one that I'm going to say then.
You're going to get a major disagreement out of me about that one, but okay.
I don't give a damn. I hate him.
All right.
Number 3 for me is the Great Khali.
Yeah, Khali's on my list as well, so we can go ahead and both knock this out quick. Okay. Overpaid, overhyped, overrated, way too much handed to him before he was ready. I appreciate a man trying to...
He beat The Undertaker. Sorry. He beat The Undertaker. Clean.
With 1 foot.
In the middle of the ring.
With 1 foot.
Yep.
To steal a line from Tracy Smothers, he didn't even hook the leg, man. Khali's on my list as well, so I'll go ahead and add him here too. I was going to save Khali, but I'll go ahead and add him here too.
Okay. But, I mean, yeah, the guy could barely move in the ring. He essentially suffered from Giant Gonzalez syndrome. He couldn't move in the ring, could barely do a damn thing, and yet they still tried to build him up. The only difference was, at least Vince realized it sooner with Giant Gonzalez. As opposed to us having to deal with the Great Khali on TV for, 6, 7 years, including the Punjabi Playboy. So, it just...
I have another statement that might ruffle some feathers when it comes to Khali, too.
What?
At least Giant Gonzalez never killed anyone.
Ooh. I didn't want to bring that up, but okay.
I went there.
Of course you did.
I have no shame.
Of course we got no shame. That's why we have a podcast.
All right. For those of you who don't know the story, Khali, when he was training, gave a guy a flapjack, the toss-up chest buster thingy, where you throw them up in the air and they land flat-chested. Apparently, there were some after effects to that, and then the kid took a second flapjack from Khali, and it ended up killing him. I do not mean to speak ill of the dead here. That was not the point of bringing this up here. But there has to be an innate sense in somebody that realizes that maybe I shouldn't be doing this move.
Yeah. So, moving from that to maybe something a bit more lighthearted. My next least favorite wrestler is one we're going to cover 2 weeks from tonight.
I know where this is going. She has become one of the biggest running gags in this show's history.
And with good reason. The only person I've ever known to legitimately piss off Amazing Kong in the ring to the point that even after she won, Kong still bailed. And that would be, God, I hate her so much. She's so terrible. Anna Manushka.
Femme Fatales, here we come again.
And she's on the card.
And this was after the disaster match against Kong, too. They still freaking booked her.
She would be booked for a long time.
All right, so you asked me to pick a wrestler.
Go ahead.
You asked me to pick a wrestler who I would put on my dislike overrated list. It actually took some thought, but I think I actually found one person who I genuinely dislike when it comes to the world of professional wrestling.
Okay.
And he is a native son of your city.
No way.
I cannot stand Lex Luger.
Oh, okay. That's what I was thinking. At all.
All right, I'm going to give my
not from Chicago.
Huh?
He's not from Chicago.
Luger has been billed from Chicago for a very long time, sir. You might want to look into that. Anyways.
No, I know he was billed in WCW as being from Chicago, but I'm pretty certain he's actually from Atlanta.
We'll Wikipedia that in a second, but first let me explain my reasoning here. Never has something been given to somebody so quickly who didn't deserve it. Luger was having great matches with Ric Flair back in WCW. But here's the thing. Ric Flair could take a broom to 4 stars at that point. Flair could literally do no wrong at that point. Of course he was going to make Luger look palatable. But you'll notice what happened to Luger as soon as Flair left WCW. The fans immediately turned on him.
Okay, real quick about that. Was that entirely Luger's fault?
I think partially because the fans realized that the brass that B were picking Luger over Flair. Look, a lot of that was probably backlash over Flair leaving, and I won't deny that. Because I think that's where you're going.
No, not at all.
Okay,
Part of that was Jim Herd turning Luger into a racist, giving him Harley Race as a manager and telling Ron Simmons, you can drive my chauffeur, or you can drive my limo.
I was actually referring to the feud with Barry Windham, but okay, we'll go with your idea.
But Windham was first, wasn't it?
Yeah, because Windham was for the vacant title, and Luger was supposed to be the babyface, and he was getting booed.
All because Ric Flair refused to be Narcissus.
I think the story came out that Herd wanted Flair to drop the title to Luger, and Flair refused. I don't know the specifics here. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But
anywho,
there's another reason I strongly dislike Luger, and I'm pretty sure you know what it is. And if you're a wrestling fan that's followed the career path of Lex Luger, you probably know what it is as well. I will say one simple word. I will not expand. Those who know what I'm talking about will know why. Those who don't, want to look it up, by all means, feel free. Liz.
Wait, what was the word?
Liz.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy.
That is all I will say on that subject. I will not take personal shots here. I will not make claims that can get me sued for libel. All I will say in that regard is the Liz, and if you know what I'm talking about, that's all that matters.
Yeah. I'll just say I agree, but that's neither here nor there. My number one is my number one, or my number 3 pick is my number 1. You know it. I think anyone that listens to Wrestling Unwrapped to the max, the post-game shows, knows I absolutely despise him.
We're running out of time and you're stalling. Hurry it up.
It's the Miz. It's far and away the Miz. I absolutely despise him. I cannot stand him. I have legitimately hated him since day one. I do not want him. I don't even want to take the time to change my channel. I just want him off my screen. Okay? I'm sorry, but I 100%, and I caught flack when I made this comment originally, but I 100% agree with Daniel Bryan with what he said about the Miz and being a coward. Okay? Because while Miz was trying to act all big and tough, Miz was also refusing to catch his opponents that would take a dive. I'm looking at you, R-Truth. And the Money in the Bank ladder match, I can't remember who took the dive, and Miz jumped out of the way so that he wouldn't have to be involved in it. Right? He's a bitch. Pure and simple. I absolutely have no time for anyone like that. It's really easy to wrestle 10 years when you don't do anything to actually put your life on the line, and in turn makes you completely untrustworthy in your essentially match partner's mind. So, fuck it. I'm done.
I would certainly hope so. Do I agree with you about the Miz stepping out of way of suicide dives? Absolutely, I do. It is 100% a coward thing to do. That being said, this is also the same dude who got 2 teeth busted out in a match with AJ Styles and finished the match. So to say that he's not willing to put himself out there is inaccurate at best. Do I agree that The Miz plays it too safe in the ring at times? Yes, I do. But at the same time, in my opinion, since he won the Intercontinental title the night after WrestleMania, Miz may be the best performer in the WWE this year, top to bottom.
Over AJ Styles, you're out of your mind.
I mean in terms of in-ring content, as well as promos, as well as character development. Say what you want to about AJ's in-ring stuff. AJ's in-ring stuff is gold. The dude is subpar at best on the microphone. Tell me I'm wrong.
Maybe.
I've yet to hear AJ Styles cut a promo that made me want to see a match that he's going to have. I will say that his promos when he was feuding with Cena were better than average for him. There have been plenty of times where I've seen Miz.
I think your phone just reset. So, but while Harry gets that situated, I'm just a person that absolutely cannot stand him.
Sorry about that. You guys know the deal with my phone.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was just saying, I cannot stand him. I just want him gone. All right. Anyway.
All right, we're coming up quickly on the 2-hour mark on air for this particular episode. We've done our favorite promotions. We've done our favorite wrestlers. We've done our favorite. Done our least favorite wrestlers. Just real quick, like 2 or 3, because we don't even have to put them in order here, but like 2 or 3 promotions that you'd never watch again. I already know what.
Watch again?
Yeah, like promotions that you can't stand. Least favorite promotion time here. We'll do this quick. We'll only do like 2 or 3 here because I can think of a couple off the top of my head, and I know what one of yours is going to be. So why don't you go ahead and start with the obvious one?
It has absolutely nothing to do with the talent that they have. It has to do with who's in charge, TNA.
I understand your hatred towards Billy Corgan. I get it. I don't dislike Corgan enough for me not to watch.
Yeah. Like I said, you didn't deal with what we had.
Oh, no.
I'm go ahead.
No, I agree. You lived through the Chicago Wrestling War. You were right there when it happened. But as somebody who didn't live through that war there, I don't dislike Billy Corgan enough for me not to justify watching people whose work I really enjoy. That being said, I don't watch TNA live. I watch it on demand, and I fast forward through what I don't want to watch.
So you delete it?
Delete.
When you get rid of it, is it the final deletion?
It's on demand, so that would be when Time Warner Cable gets rid of it. It's the final deletion.
Oh, okay, brother. On first.
Brother Patrick, I knew you'd come. Anyways,
Anyway, you?
Oh, I may be about to ruffle some feathers with this one because I hear a lot of people singing this company's praises, and I absolutely could not stand it. I could not stand Wrestling Society X. Absolutely fucking hated it.
That wasn't a company. That was a TV show.
It was built under the guise of wrestling. Could not stand it. Patrick?
I got one that's going to ruffle some feathers. Definitely going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to piss off people that I'm friends with. For much the same reason as TNA, although their talent's starting to go downhill as well. Shine.
That doesn't surprise me, actually.
If you look at what talent they had when they started compared to what they have now, yeah, it's not the world's greatest. Especially with the now almost, I can tell you right now, one of their bookers just quit after not this past Friday's show, but the one before that. One of their bookers quit, and I know that. The constant bait and switching that they've been doing, where they hyped up a triple threat, triple title match, where whoever was on the losing end of the fall was going to lose their title to the person who won the match, making for, high intrigue. And then they turned that around, and on the last day before the show, and a Money in the Bank elimination match, a 5-person Money in the Bank elimination match, to which the winner cashes in that triple title match to make it a 4-person match with 3 titles, all of which were on the line, and that person ends up winning and becomes the Shine champion. So Shimmer and TNA stay status quo, but you took away all of the intrigue. And then
here's the thing. Well, here's the thing about that, because I'm going to disagree with you on this one, and we had this conversation when this match was announced there. You would have done much more harm than good switching the Shimmer title down in Florida. Much more harm than good.
Not only that, no one wanted frickin' Allison Kay as the Shimmer champion or Taylor Made.
Well, but to my point, though, imagine the backlash in the Eagles Club if they would have changed the title and it wasn't at a Shimmer show. Because wasn't there a tag team title switch that changed outside of Shimmer for scheduling conflict reasons for Del Rey? And I know a lot of the Shimmer fans were pissed about that and the fact that it didn't happen in front of them in Berwyn.
No, they weren't. Because we understood why. Because, as a matter of fact, that title switch was 3 months before my start at Shimmer. And when I walked into the Eagles Club for Shimmer for the first time, by that point, okay, fans were angry that it had happened in Montreal, but by the time we walked in for the fall tapings, Del Rey had started at the WWE, so everyone understood why. She would not have been able to make it to the fall tapings. That's why. So they weren't mad that it didn't happen in front of them. They were mad that it happened originally, but they understood why. But in this case, it would have happened for no explicable reason. But here's an idea. Don't book the match. Or better yet, how about what they just pulled with this past Friday show, where it was originally booked that it was going to be Allison Kay versus Lufisto, and then suddenly, the Sunday before the show, Eva Lise gets cleared and can wrestle at the show, so they decide to take away the much hyped and much looked forward to. A lot of people were looking forward to Kay versus Lufisto. They take that away and make it Eva Lise versus Kay because Kay has earned her title match. To which people, fans of Lufisto, were pissed off about it. They said, okay, give Lufisto, or put Lufisto into the title match and make it a triple threat. Seems like a fair idea to me. Do you want to know the reasoning that they didn't include Lufisto originally?
We discussed this already. I know, but go ahead and share to those listening.
Yeah. For those that don't know, it was because they announced, they said Lufisto had not been there enough to warrant to get a title shot. Here's the problem with that. That Money in the Bank match that I talked about before, that was for a title shot, anywhere, anytime. A number one contenders match. Included Eva Lise, who hadn't been at Shine in 4 months, Kelly Stater, who only wrestles at Shine twice a year, and Nicole Matthews, who had never been at Shine before. So your logic's flawed.
And if you're going based on reputation, it's very easily arguable that when it comes to the world of women's professional wrestling, Lufisto's trumps that of all three of those other women, possibly combined.
Yeah, so it's just, and I've got friends that work for them. I'm not naming names at all. As a matter of fact, I've already named a couple. But I can't bear to look at what Shine has become. It sucks. All right, what's your last one?
The promotion that I originally watched, I'm almost ashamed to admit this, the promotion that I got my start watching independent wrestling with was XPW. I'm going to go ahead and just do everybody out there a solid and tell them not to waste their time. There were like 2 decent workers in the entirety of this company's history. And that number might even be a little bit high.
Was XPW the company that went to the ECW pay-per-view?
Yes.
Oh, good God.
The Heatwave pay-per-view in Los Angeles, yes.
Oh, good God.
The rumors of the Rumble... The rumors of the Rumble between the ECW and XPW locker rooms has never been confirmed nor denied officially. So I can't give any thought process as to how that played out, but yeah, that's the same company, yes.
Well, okay, let's be honest. The part that can't be denied was, well, the complete cause of it, for those that don't know, ECW ran Heatwave 99.
I want to say it was 2000. I want to say it was 2000.
They ran it in L.A., or really close to L.A. It was the first ever West Coast pay-per-view, I believe.
Yeah, it was at the, I actually do believe it was out the LA Sports Memorial, this LA Sports, whatever it is, Complex Memorial, whatever. It's the same.
LA Memorial.
It's the same, I want to say it's the same building that ended up hosting WrestleMania the year that the WWE went out there. It was still in existence at this point.
The LA Sports Arena?
Yes. I think. I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me.
All right. So, be that as it may, ECW has a pay-per-view there. XPW buys like a whole boatload of front row seats. Pretty
like
much.
6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah. pretty much with the idea of a hostile takeover. Whether or not Francine ever got touched is unknown. But
the big claim that got made, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it that like one of the men on the roster, like Cronus, grabbed her boob or something?
Yeah, he grabbed something on her. It was definitely Francine.
Yes, for sure, Francine.
Causing a near riot. This would cause like a near riot, and the XPW guys would end up trying to cause a fuss, and it caused the entire ECW locker room to pour out, like, to the ring to throw them out. Now, the story goes they would end up squaring off in a parking lot, and apparently the ECW guys beat the high holy hell out of the XPW guys. That's never been confirmed, though. But it turned into, like, probably one of the most chaotic scenes in ECW history, if you can believe that.
Yeah, ECW involved in a chaotic scene. What a shocker, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of stuff never happened in ECW.
Of course not.
Nope.
Alrighty. I think it's about time we wrap this up.
Yeah, we're coming up on 2 hours and 10 minutes, or 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Real quick, it was at the Grand Olympic Auditorium. It was not at the LA Sports Arena.
Okay, Grand Olympic Auditorium is where XPW used to run their shows out of.
Okay, that makes
the point of what I was saying is that the building that ECW ran is where XPW ran. The difference is it didn't look like a gigantic eyesore when ECW ran it.
Of course not. There were people in it.
Well, yeah, I say this as somebody who actually owns a few XPW DVDs. You never gave your third.
Do we have the time?
You said Shine, you said TNA. I gave XPW Wrestling Society X, and I know I gave a third one.
No, you didn't.
Oh, well then I guess we're stopping at 2 because we're all on the 2 hour and 15 minute mark and we don't want to run this thing as a full show.
Exactly. So, too late. Anyway, so, yeah. I mean,
you know what it means.
It's good.
You know what this means. It just means that we're going to have to do another episode of Getting to Know Woo some point down the road.
Yeah. After we take another 2-month break.
Don't say that. Sean's already threatening to kick us off the air.
Fair enough. I think we've sworn more tonight than we have in the last 4 episodes combined.
I think we've sworn more tonight than we have in the last 7 weeks combined. Oh, wait.
Yeah, no. Anyway. So,
real quick.
Bad.
Before we get out of here, tonight's episode of Getting to Know Woo, Wrestling Unwrapped, was brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. You can use that to find pretty much anything you want wrestling related: action figures, DVDs, VHS tapes, books, magazines. Pretty much if it's wrestling related, Jason Kunkel and the Madhouse Toy Chest probably have it. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement on Wrestling Unwrapped, and he'll include a special gift with your purchase. Speaking of action figures, actually just picked up a couple new ones from the Toy Chest myself.
Very nice.
We'll talk about those once we go off the air, because I'm sure nobody listening cares. Oh, that's incomplete.
Well, if Jason's listening, he might.
Well, yeah, but and I already told people where to go if they want action figures. Go to the Madhouse Toy Chest, especially if you're into like classic figures too. He's got a lot of like the old Jakks classic Superstars figures, and they've been doing some big business for him, which I'm happy to hear from because I mean, he deserves it. He's a good dude, and it's good quality merchandise too.
Yeah, definitely. So be sure to check that out. And as always, I'm afraid that I'm going to mess this up and say the wrong website. 411, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We are a presentation of the W2M Network in association with 411 Mania Wrestling.
Yes. So,
and you can find us on all kinds of other fancy sites like Stitcher, iTunes, coming soon to TuneIn Radio, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So, if there's a major podcast site, chances are you'll find us somewhere. Just search W2M Network or Wrestling to the Max or something to that nature, and chances are you will find it. So
unless
now,
it's Spotify, because screw those guys. They're way too difficult to get on.
Boy, is that true. You have no idea.
Dude.
So, real quick, there is one more thing that we have to discuss, or at least bring up. So, something
we kind of did earlier.
Something that we had to talk about over our hiatus was what we were going to do due to the WWE's new pay-per-view schedule, of essentially running every other week.
Because screw them.
Unless there's a month with 5 pay-per-views, or with 5 Sundays, which would then be 2 out of 5. So, what we're going to attempt to do right now is we're simply going to take pay-per-views off, period. So, in this case, we will take Backlash and the other September one, Clash of Champions. Okay.
Clash of Champions.
Yes. So we are going to take Backlash and Clash of the Champions off. We'll probably try that through October and see if that works. If it doesn't, we'll discuss something else, possibly a day switch, possibly going earlier on Sundays.
Well, going earlier on Sundays with pay-per-views. If we go earlier on Sundays with pay-per-views, what we will end up doing is, if we end up going earlier on Sundays, what we will end up doing is we will have our show in the afternoon, and then you'll be able to watch your pay-per-view, and then you'll be able to catch us again later on in the evening as we join Sean Paul and Gary for Wrestling Unwrapped to the Max.
I'm a little bit afraid of doing that one because I'm afraid of getting burnt out.
You're afraid of getting what?
Burned out.
It's entirely possible.
But for the time being, we're simply going to take the pay-per-views off. So, next Sunday, you will not hear us. Again, surprise, surprise. We will be back on the 18th. Well, okay. You won't hear us do Woo next Sunday.
That's true.
Chances are you'll hear us get back to do Woo 2M, though, with Backlash. Then the 18th, we'll be back on covering the show that we were going to cover 2 months ago in NCW Femme Fatale 5.
Only 2 months.
And of course, we have to cover the Manushka match. Great. And then
Manushka. Sorry.
Boo. Just for that, I'm throwing Heroes of Wrestling into the queue.
Oh, that's fine. We're doing Spring Stampede 2000 at some point as well, so screw it. Why not just make it an entirely hate everybody week?
Slamboree, not Spring Stampede.
Dude, Spring Stampede, I'm telling you.
I'm not disgracing Chicago.
I just recently watched Spring Stampede. It was the drizzling deuces.
I am not disgracing Chicago. Because, yes, that was at the United Center. Anyway, then we will take the following Sunday off. So we will be back in our normal time slot in 2 weeks, but we will be back in 1 week following Backlash.
So we will be back. We will be back in 1 week, but at a 3 hour later starting time, ish. 3 hour.
Well, with what we started at tonight, that might be close to actually 3 hours. Anyway, so
Hence the ish.
So for Harry Broadhurst and for Sean Garmer, who's doing something, I don't know what he's doing.
I'm a little disappointed that he didn't join us for favorite wrestlers and favorite promotions. Gotta say, moderately disappointed that he didn't join us for that.
Or at least favorite wrestlers. Hi, Sean. All right. So
he has to write up all the fancy stuff and then get ready for the football to the max thing tomorrow night. Which,
very true.
Which, by the way, just not completely non sequitorial to our show. I hope Ole Miss curb stomps Florida State tomorrow night.
Anyway,
and there is one specific reason I say that. Go Gators!
Jameis
All right,
Winston.
we're done.
Oh, anyway.
Huh? Oh, no, it's fine. I already announced the date that we were airing the show on originally earlier in the broadcast anyway. All right, let's get out of here. We're done. He's Patrick. I'm Harry. That's Sean.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Trying to talk. We'll see you next Sunday night for Wrestling Unwrapped to the Max Backlash 2016. And seriously, WWE, what the